starts with us, the sequel to It Ends With Us that a lot of you were interested in after I made my video about the movie, so I read it so you don't have to. And honestly, not too much happens in it compared to the first one, but we can still have some fun with it all the same because it does get fairly dramatic because, well, Ryle is literally the worst person in the world, and they felt the need to add into Atlas's already traumatic upbringing by giving him his own new drama to deal with. And yes, Lily is of course also here. But just a quick little rundown on what any of this even is. It Ends With Us as a novel by Colleen Hoover turned movie about a woman who experiences mounting levels of abuse from her partner Ryle. A neurosurgeon with a temper, just what you're looking for when someone's gonna be poking around your brain. And the ultimate lesson behind the book and the movie is really just supposed to be to get out of those abusive situations, which I think is great, but a lot of readers unfortunately continue to romanticize Ryle, comment that they can fix him, not in the like funny way, try to place some of the blame on Lily. It was all very unhinged, don't do that. And then other people just have general issues with just like the level of romanticization that can happen in some of these books because they are romance books. So when they are trying to make a deeper point, sometimes that gets lost in the middle of it all, as we saw with the Ryle fans. The movie, as a lot of you may remember, had a lot of drama around it surrounding the director Justin Baldoni and the lead actress Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds. I don't think we ever got any solid details out of that after Baldoni hired a PR agency. So who knows if we'll ever know what really happened there. But even with all that, I do think that the movie still was a very good resource for people who might not realize the different ways that abuse can take place. However, they pulled out a lot of the like verbal and emotional and psychological abuse that Ryle puts Lily through in the book, which I think is one of the like really important things to stress because some people think that abuse can only be physical and don't see the many different ways that can manifest in relationships. If you're looking for more that side of it movie, there's one called Alice Darling that I think is very good. But one of the biggest changes that the movie makes is that at the end, after she gives birth to their child, because yes, she has a child with him, which makes it significantly more complicated, when she says she's not going to be with him anymore, he actually just walks away from the baby too. He just completely leaves, so she's just free to parent on her own without him looming over her, whereas in the book, she just chooses to not be with him, but is still doing the co-parenting thing because she knows he wouldn't let her not do that. He's not going to abandon this child, which feels like the more realistic outcome here. I just feel like he would not have walked away in the movie or the book, and I'm sure if they do make a sequel, they'll find a way to have him push for some kind of custody or at least involvement to maintain that side of things, because I don't think you can do the sequel without his involvement. But if you want the deeper rundown there, I'll have my videos on the book and the movie link down below. But to make this experience a little bit less painful, I got all cozied up in my brand new reading nook provided by today's sponsor, Article. Don't you want to be cozy while you read your spicy novels? Of course you do. The mod chair, perfect for that. It even comes in spice orange. Article offer a designer curated assortment of furniture styles for every room and occasion to cater to all your personal tastes. Like, I'm still just so in love with this little corner I made. I have no idea how my entire life without an ottoman. It's amazing. I decided to complement it with this lovely leap lamp for nighttime reading, and I'm still just so completely obsessed with this Falco side table. It's just so neat and hefty. But it's not just my office that needed a little TLC. For 3 years, I've been using patio furniture as a chair in my living room, so I decided to not do that anymore. So I decided to grab the Gabriola lounge chair to match my ottoman, and this was the key for living room comfort and cozying up with a good movie. Ignore the basketball net. Article offer fast and affordable shipping across the United States and Canada, and make it super easy to pick when your stuff is going to be delivered so you're not waiting on someone else's schedule. So if you want to try out Article for yourself, make sure to click the link in the description down below or scan the QR code on screen to save $50 off your purchase of $100 or more so you too can make your space a more comfortable and exciting place to be. So before we're getting into the content of the book, as a book, it's pretty much like all Colleen Hoover books I've read, breezy as hell. It takes no time at all to read, even if some of the logic is horrific and some of the things the characters say make you want to put your head through a wall. They are not hard to get through, and they are very good at keeping you locked in till the end. This one feels a little bit weird at times because I feel like it's juggling a lot of serious topics and it's still primarily trying to be a romance novel, so it will continuously be trying to make room for that, more so than it does it with It Ends With Us, because the romance is always just kind of like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is like genuine romance around like the worst person you know. So it's like these sweet moments or sexual tension and just immediately followed up by just like the highest feelings of anxiety because Ryle might show up and pitch a fit. But you do kind of feel like you're on the edge of your seat a little bit, not because it's so good, but because you're just like, oh God, what's gonna happen? What's he gonna do? Because by pitch a fit, I mean abuse Lily to varying degrees. Like we're talking near essay, almost biting a tattoo off of her body, pushing her downstairs, like so many bad things. In terms of content, I think this book relied a little bit too much on the letters. I know the last one obviously had a lot of the letters, but Atlas is now trying to share his memories of their time together as teenagers back with Lily. So he's now writing things after reading her journals. So sometimes it just feels like it's like retreading too much of what we already know. The other thing I've come to realize now that I've read 4 of her books, you're probably getting an ugly love video by the end of the year, is that she really likes these multi-perspective novels from chapter to chapter. It Ends With Us actually does it the least, with it all really being in Lily's perspective, but we get a ton of chapters that are her old journal entries, so it feels like young Lily and present Lily as 2 characters. But everything else I've read has been like chapter to chapter different character perspectives. November 9 is Back and Forth Fallon and Ben, Ugly Love is Tate and Miles, and It Starts With Us is Atlas, Lily's childhood love interest that helps her out of her current abuse situation, and Lily, of course. Really missing out on the content double up she'd get for handling it in 2 books like the literary classics of Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey. One thing I don't love though is that this book starts with Atlas's perspective, like right after they run into each other at the end of the first book, and I get that this only exists because the fans were like, please, can you write another book? I want to see Lily and Atlas flourish, even though the purpose of that first book was not supposed to be her finding new love. It was supposed to be her getting out of an abusive situation and ending the cycle that she experienced as a child, to make sure that her own daughter doesn't experience it. But like, I get it. People want the happy ending. They think she deserves the happy ending. So that's fine. But I really still feel like she should be the central character in both of these books. And I think that this one's kind of reframing it more on Atlas, even though Lily's perspective is obviously very important in this one as well. And I can't blame anybody for wanting the lovey-dovey installment because so much of the first book does dedicate its time to that. So it makes sense that that's what people are looking for. So this one starts with Atlas's restaurant Bibs being vandalized by someone who can't spell the word asshole, so they assume it's a kid. And Atlas doesn't want to call the cops because in the assumption that it's a kid, the only thing that was stolen was croutons, so he thinks this might be someone young in a similar situation to him when he was younger and homeless and hungry. If only he knew the half of it. Whoever it is just keeps vandalizing his restaurants because yes, he opened a second one, which implies that this does seem very targeted, even though he has no idea who would be this mad at him. And I'm just gonna get his side of the story out now because I don't feel the need to trickle it out when we're dealing with like the Lily Atlas Ryle side of things. But if you don't remember, Lily meets Atlas when he's squatting in the abandoned house across the street from her. He'd been kicked out by his mom when her boyfriend moved in, and he hasn't talked to that mother since. And it turns out that this little vandal is a half-brother that Atlas didn't know existed. The mom literally shows up to the restaurant looking for him and didn't realize she'd never told Atlas he existed. Though honestly, Atlas should have suspected that it had something to do with her because when he's writing a letter to Lily about when he got kicked out, he specifies that his mom always called him an asshole, like it was 2 words, and whoever the vandal is also spelled it that way. So she's basically just been telling this kid that her older brother abandoned him, which is why he's messing with the restaurants. Just so much drama. Like, I get that we wanted to give Lily a little bit of a break here, but she's still dealing with her abuser, so there's really no respite here at all. But yeah, his mom is looking for the brother that he doesn't know about, Josh, because if he doesn't go back to school, she can face truancy charges and be sent to jail. So mother of the year here, the concerns are definitely in the right places. She's literally such a shit narcissist that she maintains that Atlas ran away when she kicked him out twice. And even though she doesn't really want to deal with Josh, like Ryle, Atlas's mom is willing to do things purely to spite another person. But when Atlas sees her physically harm Josh, she refuses to let him go anywhere near her, and the two bond over their shit mother and absentee fathers. So now they'll start a better family together. A whole new tree starts with them. So yeah, that's the title tie-in. A healthier, non-abusive family starts with them. And while Atlas is more than fine with that and raising this 12-year-old he didn't know existed and never talking to the mom again, he does still give her the invite to weekly family dinners they'll be having, but she stops showing up after 1. So yeah, that's pretty much everything with Atlas, so let's get over to Lily. And I don't necessarily want to call hers drama because it is the continued residual abuse from a manipulative ex-partner. As mentioned, unlike in the movie, Lily is trying to co-parent with Ryle. She never fully reported any of the abuse incidents because he's a respected neurosurgeon with no criminal history and amazing resources and money, so she was worried he'd have way more leverage in court than her. By not going through the courts, she's managed to get him to agree to day trips only, no overnights until she's old enough to talk. But with him still around and still trying to get with her anytime his ego gets hurt, he threatens her with court. So even though they're not together, she's still just been walking on eggshells for almost a year to try and keep the peace for their child, which certainly is not sustainable. And with the first book ending and this book starting with her reconnecting with Atlas, you know the Atlas that Ryle blames for their relationship falling apart? He's gonna be a massive dickhead about anything involving Atlas. You know, even though Atlas had nothing to do with their relationship ending and he hurt her before they even knew Atlas was in the same city, she'd have a hard time dating anyone with Ryle around, but Atlas is gonna be a very specific problem even if they only had a platonic friendship. And Lily knows that, even knows that half the reason Ryle's put up with her custody arrangement is because he assumes that if he plays nice long enough, they'll get back together. Now, the biggest thing you should notice here, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, is that she is still making decisions based on Ryle's potential reactions because it's easier to do that than deal with his anger. So even though the last one ends with this whole like, I'm not gonna stick around and make my kid go through this, she is still very much in it. This is still a very abusive dynamic. Again, even if they weren't in direct contact, her best friend and employee is Ryle's sister. They are bound. Like, Buddy still has a key to her apartment, which he's starting to use more under the guise of Emmy being tired and needing to be put to bed before Lily can get home. And he then uses that to push more boundaries and showing up with dinner, trying to get her to drink. It's just so much tension while reading this. My nerves are shot. Because the second she tries to lay down some boundaries and get the key back, he immediately says he'll just start keeping Emmy overnight. I keep my voice calm. I don't think I'm ready for that. Ryle drops his fork on the plate with a thud. Maybe we need to modify the custody arrangement. Thankfully, she talks him down and explains why she's not comfortable with Emmy staying with him overnight, and it's wild that she has to clarify that it's because she wants to wait till the kid can tell her if something happens. Like, holy shit, that should be enough to make someone want to get so much extensive therapy and anger management, even if you didn't think you would ever hurt your kid. And he hasn't done any of that to better himself. What I do like so far in this book is that anytime Lily starts to feel bad about the boundaries she set, she reads through a list of all the things he did to her and how it was only escalating, so she knows she made the right choice for her and her daughter. Because even if a parent is only ever abusive to another parent, no kid should have to witness that. It causes a lot of the same kind of trauma and emotional scars that the direct recipient receives because you're always waiting for it to happen. You're still dealing with that anger, and you're always like fearful for the day that it escalates. So she's just gonna have to keep trying to lay down these boundaries if she has any hope at living a happy life, and Atlas is up for the challenge. Even when it's pointed out that he's a very specific point of rage in Ryle. Because again, Ryle got so enraged over mementos she kept as a teenager and things she wrote in a diary as a teenager. It's unhinged. Speaking of the diary entries, I don't know if I mentioned this specifically in the first video, but they were never written the way people write diaries. They're written like the rest of the book, just in cursive. Like, it's nice to know what happened to Lily back then, but she's writing her life like a narrative fiction. But after finding out that Ryle is so angry about things that are in these journal, Atlas would like to know what's in them, and he's so moved by what she's written and the details she remembered to write down that he starts to write his own thoughts and memories of those times so she can understand why she was such an important person to him. How she was the only person who treated him with care after he was kicked out, the only person who didn't make him feel like nothing. So the first date is quite promising, even though it's mostly her asleep in the car while he read her journal and wrote her a letter, until she goes to pick up her daughter from Melissa and Ryle is there. And he's upset, not because she was on a date because he just thinks she was out at an event, it's because he started watching Finding Nemo, which has been her favorite movie since childhood, that helped her deal with her abusive home life. Like Dory, her mantra became, just keep swimming. But he's mad because he thinks it 100% relates to Atlas. And is choosing to get mad because Emmy's middle name is Dory. So he thinks her giving their daughter the middle name of a fish from a children's movie was a specific dig at him. It was a specific attack on him. Because again, he still believes that the reason why they're not together is Atlas and not, you know, his abuse. Make it make sense. This is the kind of person you can't reason with. You can't appease them because they'll always find something new to be mad at. They'll always find a way to justify the behavior, to put the blame on you or on anything outside their own actions. It's so ridiculous you want to laugh, but you know laughing could get you very hurt. Terrifying. And then when she points out that his behavior is concerning and illogical, that she has good reason to be afraid, that he's literally blocking her ability to leave and she's concerned he might accidentally push her over the balcony like he accidentally pushed her down the stairs, he tries to make her feel ridiculous for being concerned. Ryle fucking sucks. I can't believe there's people who actually defend him in the world. And I hate that there's moments that she actually starts to wonder if Ryle's right. If she subconsciously gave her daughter a middle name that would piss him off when that was a character that meant the world to her before she even knew knew Atlas existed. Like, she literally writes all of her journal entries to Ellen DeGeneres well before he was in the picture. And not to mention that Emerson's first name is for the brother Ryle accidentally killed as a child. She gave him that without him even asking when she knew she was leaving him. Her daughter has a name that will always remind her of her abusive ex-husband. Because yeah, they end up getting eloped in Vegas. I actually can't even remember if that happens in the movie, but it happens in the book. It's absolute insanity. And even if the book keeps stressing, no, this is unreasonable, it really needs to just head that off to the point that it's absolutely ridiculous for him to be upset. Like, she can't even begin to think, oh my God, did I actually try to hurt him? Am I to blame? No, not in this situation. He would literally have more grounds to be upset over the fact that she just named their kid after a cartoon fish than what the fish might mean. Then Aswad follows this all up by thinking this is some tension making way for them to get back together? Like she's just being silly to not let it happen? Insanity! Colleen, why? Again, I will say the book does a good job of pointing out that any of the doubt she feels is absurd, and it always stresses that she is not remotely interested in Ryle at all in this book, and he just is scared and disgusts her, and that she can't spend her life in fear. They even have Marshall, Alyssa's husband, come out and say that even when he was the most angry at Alyssa, when he found out she cheated on him early in their relationship, the thought of hurting her never crossed his mind, because it's not normal for that to cross your mind, and that she should feel proud for getting out of that situation. Let's go, former brother-in-law! He's so much better than Alyssa, who, while I understand is Ryle's sister, still says such dumb things. Like when she asks why Ryle specifically hates Atlas so much, and Lily just says it's because she kept stuff from their time as teenagers, and Alyssa's genuinely shocked and always assumed Lily must have cheated with Atlas. Keeps waiting for Lily to say what else she did, which was nothing. Then, after realizing that her brother put Lily in the hospital over a ghost of a teenage comfort, says, oh, well, you should just pull off the band-aid and tell Ryle you're seeing Atlas. He'll get over it. As if this is just a fussy teen with a crush. I feel like history proves that he won't, in fact, just get over it, and getting over it will take a dedicated group effort of holding your shit brother accountable. Pissed at you, girl. Husband's too good for you. I do love the clapback that Lily gives her later when she points out that Atlas being so likable on top of being handsome is really gonna emasculate Ryle. And Lily says, not as emasculating as beating your wife should feel. True. Because again, I really must stress some of Ryle's most horrible behavior. He tried to bite a tattoo off of her shoulder simply because it was related back to her time with another dude. And then I must stress probably walked away thinking what he did wasn't that serious. Atlas seeing the tattoo, learning that it was about him, and seeing the bite scar marks around it has more of a reaction and more guilt that it happened than Ryle ever did. Which is wild because it's not remotely his fault. Then they start having a nice little date, eating, and there's this whole moment where Atlas doesn't make her feel bad or embarrassed for lactating while they're making out. You know, the bar is in hell, but good for him. They also hash out a lot of why he didn't reach out after they were leaving, basically because the cops threatened to arrest him for manipulating a teenage girl, even though he was also a teenager and he didn't want to make things harder on her or ruin the small window he had to make something of himself. It's a sweet night with a lot of healing before he has to leave, and sadly, she can't even enjoy it the next day because Ryle's there first thing in the morning and absolutely realizes that someone spent the night. He pretty quickly questions if it was Atlas, and of course uses that to justify all of his unhinged abusive behavior, as if it validates any of what he did. Like, oh my God, you're seeing that guy a year later, so I was totally right to get angry and hurt you? And even when she does tell Ryle that no, she wanted the life with him, that he's the reason they're not together, and she tried so hard to make it worse, he just escalates and pushes her into a door and puts his hands on her throat and then slams the other one into the wall beside her head. And she's supposed to think he's better now? Okay. At least at this point, she knows it's not her responsibility to try to fix him or make him feel better, and the only responsibility she does has is to keep her daughter safe. Thankfully, Atlas is totally down to Scott Pilgrim, the evil ex, if it means he can be with Lily, even if he is frustrated at the situation, knowing how hard it must be for Lily anytime Ryle has Emmy, not knowing what he might do, not being able to use any of that past abuse against him in court now because of the agreement, and of course, Ryle just keeps escalating, texting her angry messages to make her feel guilty, to imply he's done nothing to earn her fear. Literally, just that weekend, he had her thrown against a door before he storms into her work to further blame Atlas for their current issues, that things were fine before he came back around, not realizing that she's actively been tiptoeing around his rage to not rock the custody agreement. This is literally just her now advocating for her own happiness and well-being, and that pisses him off. Again, totally ignoring that the original violence he committed was before he even knew Atlas existed. Ryle is truly one of the most hateful fictional characters I've ever had to deal with. Holy shit, and like, you guys know we deal with some real winners here. However, to try to get the upper hand on him, she bluffs and said that she sent the the text to a lawyer after he put his hands on her that weekend, and instead of thinking, oh shit, maybe I am the problem, he just blames Atlas even more and goes to pick a fight with him again. Because violence has worked so well for you up to this point, right, buddy? At least this time he's gonna try and pick a fight with someone who can hit back. But Atlas plays the bigger man and is not gonna hit back. Ooh, that must piss Ryle off so good. But the conversation that Atlas fights very hard to stay calm for really just shows how hopeless Ryle is. Like, he literally thinks it is only a matter of time before Lily pisses Atlas off too, as if it's normal to abuse someone just because they frustrate you or start an argument. He is unhinged. But somehow Atlas kind of gets through to him that it's Ryle's fault that his marriage is over, it's his fists, and it'll be his fault when he creates strain in Lily's life, which would make Emmy's life worse too. You expect me to what? To cheer you two on? To wish you well? To encourage you to be a good father to my fucking daughter? He laughs at the absurdity he finds in the idea of that, but I keep a very straight face. Yes, exactly that. And yeah, you should want the person in your child's life to care about her, to be good to her mother, to be a good source of support. Only lunatics want to use their children as bargaining chips or wish for them to be in bad environments because of their own selfish desires. I hate that he's trying to make any of this sound beyond the realm of possibility. A team is the only thing people should be when kids are involved. That hits him. I can see it in the way he flinches. And that stunlocks Ryle enough to leave, but not before this very dumb threat about not being around to pick up the pieces of Lily when the relationship doesn't work out. Which is ridiculous. Lily got out of their relationship all on her own after the birth of her child and didn't go anywhere near Atlas until they bumped into each other randomly on the street almost a year later. She's trying to be a good mother first and foremost. But not in this moment, because the book needs its obligatory steamy sex scene, which is happening in a steamy shower. Risky business, team. Slip percentages are high. Though I love that it specifically mentions that they've already had the conversation about birth control and being tested, so they're good to go. I love it when something is tossed into a book for the reader's benefit. I really do wonder if that was an editor's note to toss in, because they very quickly make their way to the bed where he ends up with a condom anyways, and you know what? Good for them. We got double up that protection. But after the sexual satiation, it's time to lay down the law with Ryle, and thankfully she's got Alyssa, Marshall, and Ryle's mommy there to keep things chill. But if I had been any one of these bystanders, I may have lost my shit on him, because Lily's first very reasonable request was for Ryle to take anger management classes, which I am shocked had not already come up. And this motherfucker laughs. Tries to leave before Alyssa's like, no, absolutely not, sit down. Even Marshall's not here to bail his buddy out. Are you aware of this? Am I aware that you lost your temper with Lily last week and pinned her against a door? Or am I aware of the text you sent her or the threats you made when she said she was talking to her lawyer? That's right, dudes, keep the homies accountable. The shitty ones respect you more, so you have the power to make genuine change. So Ryle doesn't really have much of a choice but to agree with the request now that he realizes that other people will be holding him accountable. They've set up a routine where Lily doesn't really have to be as involved with the drop-off or the pickups to mitigate their contact. If he doesn't stick with it, he won't be able to see his daughter or his niece, who I must mention is named Riley. This motherfucker has 2 children named after him. Undeserved. So once that's squared away, we hop ahead a bunch of months to Atlas inviting her to move in with him, explaining that she was the first person that ever showed him any kind of love all those years ago, the first person to make her feel like life was worth it, and that because of her, he feels equipped to provide that love and care to Josh as well. And the final chapter is him reading his vows before he heads out to marry her, because of course she needs a happily ever after. Though again, the book ends with him and not her, because this is more a book about Atlas and him starting his family tree off correctly, and that does feel a little bit weird to me. Like, give Lily the final word in here. But yeah, that's pretty much the book. We've got Atlas's past traumas coming up to be reckoned with and breaking a different type of cycle with his half-brother. Lily learning not to make a shadow of herself to keep Ryle appeased. And the two of them coming together as one to realize they're stronger together. It's so cute, guys. I fear for the movie. I really do. But that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section down below. Have you read this one? What did you think of this? Are there other Colleen Hoover books you really want me to get on? I actually just realized that there was like a television show made about one of her books before a movie was ever optioned. I had no idea, so I will probably go through that. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks again to Article for sponsoring the video and providing me with this lovely little reading nook. Thanks as always to my Patreon subscribers and YouTube channel members. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. All my other social medias are listed down below if you're interested in following me there. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.